This one is a song that, at the time that I wrote it, was the deepest, darkest, scariest, most terrible topic that I could think to write a song about. This is called The Last Time I Did Acid, I Went Insane. A sad but true story from my teenage years. July, a long time ago. Why'd I eat the acid? I don't know. I wasn't thinking and I wasn't scared. Why'd I eat the acid? I wasn't prepared. The last time I did acid, I went insane. I was hanging out with some friends, just getting loaded, when all of a sudden my mind exploded. I realized I was gay and I got paranoid. I was sitting on the floor listening to Pink Floyd. The last time I did acid, I went insane. And I was drawing crazy pictures, and before I was done, the picture started pulsing like an alien lung. And I said, oh my God, this has just begun. And it was 12 more hours before I was done. And we were up on the rooftop, and I'll tell you the truth, I was convinced I'd already fallen off of the roof. And these weird metal things all around that space, they were teleporting me from place to place. The last time I did acid, I went insane. So we ran back downstairs where it was better to be, but I was trapped in spiral staircase infinity. And when we got to the door, I couldn't go inside, cause it was the gates of heaven and I had died. The last time I did acid, I went insane. This kid named Grim, he punched a cat in the head. He could read my thoughts, that's what he said, and he described what it was like, but I didn't believe it, like lifting a rug and seeing stars beneath it. And the first rule of tripping was, don't be with people you don't trust. The second rule of LSD, the rooftop is not a good place to be. The third rule is to be prepared. The fourth rule is to not get scared. The fifth rule is to stay serene. Turn off your mind and float downstream. The sixth rule is to have a good friend at hand. The seventh rule, I hope you understand, is not to look too deep into your soul, or you might find a hideous, hopeless hole of hatred, hunger, infinite, idiot, mindless, meaningless, nothingness, 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 nothingness. And that's what I did. And every aspect of life that I selected was instantly and brutally dissected. I saw the horrible emptiness within, the reasons behind everything. And it was at that moment that I went insane. Because I started thinking about some very heavy and intense thoughts that I probably shouldn't have started thinking about because of what those thoughts made me realize. Because the thing is, when I was 15, 16, and discovering psychedelic music and Pink Floyd records and the idea that I could actually do the drugs that you're supposed to do to listen to those records, and I thought it was a very important philosophical, psychological experiment that I could do on myself to reach some kind of, great world-changing understanding. And little did I suspect that when I actually did reach some kind of great world-changing understanding, it was actually not a good thing. It was like totally terrible, because I understood like the meaning of everything, and I realized that I understood the meaning of life, and I realized that it was so horrible and terrible that I would not be able to tell anybody about it, or I would destroy their lives and ruin their lives and wreck their consciousness the way that I had unfortunately wrecked my own young consciousness. And it was a terrible tragedy that had befallen me, and I could never tell anybody about it, because the things that I realized, the meaning of life, the thing I figured out after some dark contemplation that night, the thing I realized was so terrible, so immense, so destructive of all human consciousness, that if I told anybody, the secret would get out and I would destroy all consciousness, and humanity would be wrecked, ruined, like I'd ruined my own life, and I would just have to keep it inside forever. And so I did. I didn't tell anybody the secret of life, because I didn't want to destroy all human consciousness. But tonight, I think I can handle the responsibility of destroying all human consciousness by telling you what I figured out. So it's like this. Everything is meaningless because anything that you think is true, somebody else could think something different is true. And what's true for you is true for you. But what's true for them is true for them. But it might be something different than what's true for you. But both things are true. And therefore, neither thing is true. Therefore, everything is true. Therefore, nothing is true. And each person thinks something different is true. However, even worse than that is that once I had realized that, I realized that the fact that everybody thinks something different is true just happens to be the thing that I think is true. Therefore, if anybody were to ever try to prove to me that anything else was true other than the fact that I thought everybody thought something different was true would only prove to me that it was true. So if I ever thought something else was true, it would only prove that that was true, which would prove the other thing was true, which would prove, I don't know. It was just all horrible and terrible, and I realized that I had destroyed my consciousness, and I apologize now for having now destroyed yours. But please don't tell anybody else, or else the world will be annihilated. But I don't know, does the world really not deserve to get annihilated? Maybe it deserves it, so maybe this evening in Seattle, I empower you to go forth and tell others this horrible truth that I realized when I was 16 that I had to keep inside me for all these long, horrible years until unleashing it tonight. Well, anyway, there was one other thing that I realized, and that one other thing I eventually realized was that people like me should just not do acid. So that was the last time